I found his dashcam footage. Every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months, my fiancé wasn't playing soccer. He was meeting his ex-girlfriend. My name is Rebecca Chen. I'm 32 years old, and I'm a data analyst for a Fortune 500 insurance company. I've spent 8 years teaching algorithms to detect patterns in fraudulent claims. I never imagined I'd use those same skills to uncover fraud in my own relationship. But on a Wednesday afternoon in March, standing in Martinez Auto Shop in downtown Seattle with a mechanic asking me for a password, I realized that every instinct I'd been suppressing for months was about to be validated. The mechanic needed to reset the dashcam system in Michael's BMW. Some software glitch was causing the backup camera to freeze. He asked if I knew the password to the memory card. I didn't, but Michael kept all his passwords in an encrypted file on our shared laptop, the one he thought I didn't know how to access. I did. Within 15 minutes, I had the 4-digit code, and within 20 minutes, I was sitting in my car in that parking lot, laptop open, transferring 6 months of dashcam footage to my hard drive before I let them format anything. I should have trusted my instincts back in October. Michael started going to soccer every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. He'd been talking about getting back in shape, about reconnecting with his college friends, about needing an outlet from his stressful job as a commercial real estate broker. It made sense. Everything made sense. Except for the small things that didn't. His soccer bag never smelled like grass or dirt, just his cologne and that specific lavender scent I couldn't place. The sweat on his shirt was always cold, never had that particular warmth of fresh perspiration. His shoes were pristine, no scuff marks, no mud, nothing you'd expect from 2 hours on a field. But I'm analytical by nature, sometimes to a fault, so I cataloged these observations without acting on them. I opened a private folder on my personal laptop, started noting dates and times, tracking patterns the way I track data anomalies at work. November came, and Michael's Tuesday-Thursday schedule became sacred. He'd rush home from work, shower, change into athletic clothes, grab his bag, and leave by 6:45. He'd return around 9:30, shirt damp, face flushed, talking about the games, about his friend Derek's terrible goalkeeping, about how good it felt to run again. I'd smile, ask questions, act interested. Meanwhile, I was checking our joint credit card statements every week. No charges for league fees, no payments to sports facilities, nothing. In December, I did something I'm not proud of but don't regret. I called 3 indoor soccer facilities within 10 miles of our apartment in Capitol Hill. I asked if they had a league on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, mentioned I was looking for my fiancé, Michael Torres. None of them had anyone by that name registered. One helpful woman even checked their visitor logs. Nothing. I thanked her, hung up, and added this information to my folder. I still didn't confront him. Not yet. Because I learned something crucial in my profession. Gather all the evidence before you present your case, because you only get one chance to make it airtight. January arrived, and with it came the incident that changed everything. Michael's BMW needed service, a check engine light that wouldn't turn off. He asked me to take it to Martinez Auto Shop because he had a crucial client meeting. I agreed. I always agreed. That's what made me so effective at what I was planning, though I didn't fully know it yet. The mechanic, Rodriguez, called me around 2 p.m. "Mrs. Torres," he said, and I didn't correct him. "We've got the engine issue sorted, but your husband's dashcam system is throwing errors. We need to reset it, but it's password protected. Any chance you know the code?" I told him I'd call back. I went home during my lunch break, accessed Michael's password file, found BMW_Cam, 1987, his birth year, how original. But before I called Rodriguez back, I sat there staring at that password, and something clicked. The dashcam, the interior-facing dashcam that Michael had insisted on getting for insurance purposes after someone keyed his car last year. The camera that records audio, the camera that would have captured everything. I called Rodriguez back, gave him the password, but added one request. Before you reset anything, can you transfer the footage to a USB drive? Michael wanted to save some clips of his commute for a project. A lie, smooth and easy. Rodriguez agreed. I picked up the car at 5 p.m., and he handed me the USB drive along with the keys. I drove straight home, told Michael the car was ready, but I'd left it at the shop because I had to get back to work. Another lie. I spent that evening alone in our home office while Michael was at another soccer game, watching 6 months of dashcam footage at double speed. The truth revealed itself in high-definition video. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Michael would drive from our apartment toward Green Lake Park, where he claims the soccer games happened. But 3 blocks before the park, he'd turn onto Fremont Avenue and pull over near a Starbucks. At exactly 7:15 p.m., a woman would get in the passenger seat. I recognized her immediately. Vanessa Garrett, his ex-girlfriend from graduate school, the one he claimed he'd lost touch with years ago. The interior camera captured everything. Their hands touching, their conversations about their days, about us, about how Rebecca is so wrapped up in her work she doesn't even notice, about how he was waiting for the right time to end things with me, about how they were planning a future together once he figured out how to break the engagement without losing too much money in the split. I watched him drive her to her apartment in Ballard, park in a visitor spot, and disappear from the camera's view for 90 minutes. Then I watched him return to his car alone, pull a water bottle from his gym bag, and deliberately pour water over his shirt to make it look sweat-soaked. He'd practice his expression in the rearview mirror, settling on tired but happy before driving home to me. I watched this ritual repeat itself across 24 separate occasions. The audio captured everything: their intimate conversations, their planning, their laughter. At one point, Vanessa asked him, "Do you feel guilty?" And Michael responded, "Sometimes, but Rebecca's so logical about everything, she'll understand this wasn't working. She'll probably already have a spreadsheet ready for dividing assets." They both left. I didn't. I sat in that office until 3 a.m., and I didn't cry. I took notes instead. I created a timeline with timestamps. I extracted the most damning audio clips. I made backups of backups, cloud storage, external drives, a copy sent to my work email with an automated delayed send I could cancel if needed. This is what I do. I analyze patterns, I document evidence, I build cases that hold up under scrutiny. By the time Michael came home around 9:30 that Thursday, claiming Derek had invited everyone out for beers after the game, I had already contacted 3 divorce attorneys and had consultations scheduled for the following week. I greeted him with a smile, asked about his evening, listened to his lies with perfect composure. He had no idea that I'd already started building the case that would dismantle everything he'd carefully constructed. Friday morning, I called in sick to work, the first sick day I'd taken in 2 years. I spent 8 hours in consultation with Rachel Morrison, a divorce attorney who came highly recommended for complex asset division cases. I brought my laptop, showed her everything. She watched 3 minutes of footage, listened to 2 audio clips, and looked at me with something like awe. "This is the most documented infidelity case I've seen in 15 years of practice," she said. "He handed you everything you need." We spent the rest of the consultation planning strategy. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, but documentation like this affects asset division, especially given that Michael had convinced me to put $40,000 of my savings toward the down payment on our dream condo last year, the one titled only in his name because his credit score was better. Rachel smiled when I told her that. "We're going to get you every penny back, plus interest, plus compensation for emotional distress. And Rebecca, don't tell him anything yet. Let him keep playing soccer." The next 2 weeks were the strangest of my life. I went to work, came home, had dinner with Michael, watched TV beside him, kissed him goodnight, and acted like everything was perfectly normal. Meanwhile, I was systematically separating our lives. I opened a new bank account at a different institution and rerouted my direct deposit. I transferred my portion of our joint savings, exactly 50%, documented to the cent. I changed my beneficiaries on my retirement accounts and life insurance. I removed his access to my credit cards. I gathered every document I'd need: tax returns, bank statements, the record of my $40,000 down payment, emails about the condo purchase, everything. I photographed every item of value in our apartment with timestamps. Rachel had given me a checklist, and I executed it with the same precision I use for quarterly reports at work. Michael noticed nothing. He was too busy with Vanessa, too confident in his careful deception, too certain that logical, predictable Rebecca would never suspect a thing. On Tuesday, March 14th, he went to another soccer game. I tracked his phone. I'd added a family tracking app months ago for safety, and he'd never thought to disable it. I watched the dot on my screen travel to Vanessa's apartment in Ballard and stay there for 2 hours. While he was gone, I packed 3 suitcases with my essential belongings and moved them to my friend Jennifer's apartment across town. When Michael came home that night, sweaty shirt and tired smile, I was sitting on the couch reading a book. He kissed the top of my head and went to shower. I turned another page and marked my place for the next chapter. Thursday, March 16th. Michael left for soccer at 6:45 p.m. I waited until 7 p.m., then I sent the email I'd drafted 3 days earlier. Subject line, "We need to talk." Body, "Michael, I know about Vanessa. I know about every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 6 months. I have video evidence, audio recordings, and timestamps. I've filed for divorce. You'll be served with papers tomorrow at your office. Don't come home tonight. I've changed the locks on my apartment." My apartment, not ours, because the lease was in my name alone. He'd moved in with me 2 years ago, another detail he'd conveniently forgotten. I hit send at 7:03 p.m. Then I forwarded him a 3-minute video compilation I'd edited together, clips of Vanessa getting into his car, audio of them discussing their future, video of him pouring water on his shirt, their laughter about my spreadsheets. I added no commentary. The evidence spoke for itself. My phone started ringing at 7:18 p.m. I declined the call. It rang 14 more times over the next hour. I declined everyone. At 8:47 p.m., Michael showed up at the apartment. He couldn't get in. I'd had a locksmith come that afternoon and install new deadbolts. He pounded on the door, shouting my name, saying we needed to talk, saying I was overreacting, saying I'd taken things out of context. I stood on the other side of that door in complete silence, watching through the peephole as he progressively lost his composure. He tried for 20 minutes before my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson from 4C, threatened to call the police. He left. The texts started immediately. Apologies, explanations, justifications, accusations. I read every one and responded to none. At 11 p.m., he sent a message that said, "You're really going to throw away 3 years over a misunderstanding? I expected better from you, Rebecca. I thought you were smarter than this." I smiled at that. I was exactly as smart as he'd always claimed I was. He just never considered that intelligence might be used against him. Friday morning, a process server delivered divorce papers to Michael's office at Premier Commercial Realty. His colleague David called me at noon. We'd always been friendly at company events. "Rebecca, Michael just got served with papers and had a complete meltdown in the conference room. He threw a chair. They sent him home. Is everything okay?" I told David everything was fine and thanked him for checking in. Rachel called at 2 p.m. with an update. Michael had contacted a lawyer, some guy named Preston Walsh, who apparently specialized in defending men's assets in divorces. "He's a bulldog," Rachel warned, "but he's never seen documentation like what we have. This is going to be faster than you think." She was right. Michael's strategy, I learned later, was to claim the affair had only been going on for a few weeks, that he'd been planning to end it, that I was blowing everything out of proportion because I'd always been overly emotional and vindictive. Preston Walsh apparently advised him to settle quietly, but Michael insisted on fighting. He wanted the condo. He wanted half my retirement account. He wanted compensation for emotional support he'd provided during our relationship. His counterclaim was filed on Monday, March 20th. Rachel read it to me over the phone, and I could hear her holding back laughter at the audacity. "He's claiming that you were emotionally distant, and that drove him to seek companionship elsewhere. He wants you to pay him $20,000 for his pain and suffering." I asked what our next move was. "We respond with evidence," Rachel said, "and we watch his case collapse." The deposition happened on April 6th in a conference room at Rachel's firm. Michael showed up with Preston Walsh, both of them in expensive suits, both of them projecting confidence. Michael wouldn't look at me directly. He addressed all his comments to the court reporter or to Rachel as if I wasn't sitting 15 feet away. Preston opened with questions about my work schedule, trying to establish that I'd been absent from the relationship. I answered every question calmly, factually, with specific examples and dates. Then Rachel started her questions. She pulled up the dashcam footage on a large monitor in the conference room. Michael's face drained of color within 30 seconds. She played a 2-minute compilation. Vanessa getting into his car, their kiss, audio of Michael saying Rebecca is so wrapped up in her work she doesn't even notice, video of him pouring water on his shirt. The timestamp on each clip was clearly visible. Preston Walsh stopped writing notes. Rachel paused the video and asked Michael directly, "Can you confirm that this is you in these videos, Mr. Torres?" Michael looked at Preston, who gave a small shake of his head, but Michael answered anyway. "Yes, that's me, but—" Rachel cut him off. No further questions for now. She then pulled up bank statements showing my $40,000 transfer for the condo down payment, the purchase agreement showing only Michael's name on the title, and emails where Michael had assured me we'd add your name later once everything settles. She presented my documentation of asset separation, proving I'd taken only what was mine. She showed my income statements, demonstrating I'd been the higher earner throughout our relationship. Preston Walsh called for a recess. Michael threw his pen across the table. During the break, I went to the bathroom and ran into Preston in the hallway. He looked exhausted. "Miss Chen," he said quietly, "I'm going to recommend my client settle. This isn't winnable for him." I nodded. "I appreciate your honesty." He shook his head. "In 20 years, I've never seen someone document a case this thoroughly. Did you know from the beginning?" I considered my answer. I knew something was wrong. I just waited until I had proof. He almost smiled. "You would have made a terrifying attorney." I went back to the conference room. When proceedings resumed, Preston requested another private discussion with his client. 20 minutes later, they returned with a settlement offer. Michael would quit-claim the condo to me, reimburse my $40,000 plus $12,000 in additional compensation, and waive any claim to my retirement or other assets. In exchange, I would agree not to pursue further damages or share the dashcam footage publicly. Rachel looked at me for confirmation. I agreed. The divorce was finalized on May 3, 2023. I kept the apartment we'd shared, got my down payment back with interest, and walked away with everything I'd brought into the relationship, plus compensation for what he'd tried to steal. Michael moved in with Vanessa 2 weeks after the settlement. I heard, through mutual friends, that her enthusiasm for their relationship cooled significantly once she realized he'd lost nearly everything in the divorce and was now in debt from legal fees. 6 months later, I got a promotion at work, senior data analyst with a 20% salary increase and my own team. I used some of my settlement money to buy new furniture for the apartment, erasing every trace of Michael from the space. Jennifer helped me repaint the bedroom a soft blue-gray that I'd always wanted, but Michael had vetoed as too cold. I joined a hiking group and spent weekends exploring the Cascades. I went on dates, some good, some forgettable, all of them honest. In September, I ran into Michael at a coffee shop in Fremont. He looked thinner, tired, wearing a wrinkled button-down I didn't recognize. He was alone. He saw me and froze, coffee cup halfway to his mouth. I smiled politely and walked past him to order my drink. I could feel him staring at me while I waited. When I turned around to leave, he stepped into my path. "Rebecca," he said quietly, "can we talk for a minute?" I checked my watch. "I have a meeting in 20 minutes. A lie, but a useful one. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. For lying, for the way I treated you, for what I put you through. You didn't deserve any of it." I studied his face. He looked sincere, or at least practiced at sincerity. "Thank you for saying that," I replied. "I appreciate the apology." He seemed encouraged by this. "I've been thinking about you a lot lately, about us, about how good we were before everything got complicated. I repeated slowly, "You mean before I discovered you'd been cheating on me for 6 months?" He flinched. "I made mistakes, I know that, but I've grown since then. I'm different now. I was hoping maybe we could—" I cut him off. "Michael, I have to go. I hope things work out for you." I walked past him and out the door. He didn't follow. I learned later, through the same network of mutual friends, that Michael and Vanessa had broken up in October. Apparently, the reality of their relationship, without the thrill of sneaking around, without the fantasy they'd constructed, didn't live up to expectations. Vanessa had started seeing someone else, someone with better financial prospects and fewer complications. Michael had moved into a studio apartment in Renton, a significant downgrade from the condo he'd lost. His career had stalled after the incident at his office. Throwing a chair tends to impact professional reputation. Last I heard, he'd switched firms and taken a pay cut to do it. I don't take pleasure in his decline, but I don't feel sorry for him either. He made his choices. I made mine. In December, I framed something and hung it in my home office. Not the video footage, not the divorce decree, but a screenshot of the last text message he'd sent me during our relationship. It was from Tuesday, March 14th, sent at 9:43 p.m. "Great game tonight. Derek finally learned how to defend. Love you. See you soon." Below it, I added a small printed caption. "Sometimes the data tells a different story." I look at it occasionally when I'm working from home, not because I need the reminder of what he did, but because I need the reminder of what I did. I trusted my instincts. I gathered evidence. I documented everything. I executed a plan with precision and patience. I didn't let emotion override strategy. I built my case, presented my evidence, and won. Not because I was vindictive, but because I was smart. Because I did exactly what Michael always said I did best. I analyzed the data, identified the patterns, and drew the correct conclusions. He just never imagined he'd be the subject of the analysis.